Jimmy, I'm on. Hi. Hi, guys. Hold on. Let me go over to YouTube because I'm not on YouTube. There I am. Hi, it's Bink. Hi, Aurora. I'll get it. Yeah, I'll have it. I'm going to have it in a second. Thank you. Robity Bob. Marianne Frantini. Hello there. Hello there, Carolyn Parrish. Hi, Sean Sneed. Hello to Scooter. Sorry, we are, I know, very late, and it's not usually like me with my late hours, but we had a full Father's Day, and hope you guys had a good Father's Day. Did you have a good Father's Day? Did you do fun stuff if you're the father of your family too? And then tomorrow's my mom's birthday, and so that's a little bittersweet, but tomorrow's Roman's birthday as well, so that makes that a little bit better. Hello there. Roman's going to be three. Yeah, tomorrow's Roman's birthday. So, and my son should be off on Roman's birthday. So that it's your birthday today, Angie. June 20th. Is it June 20th, Angie? That's my mother's birthday. Happy birthday, Angie. Happy birthday to my mother. Happy Father's Day to all the fathers, including my father in heaven, Jimmy, and everyone else, all the old good fathers, and the mothers that work like fathers and that are like fathers. What's up? Flower Girl Phillips, hello there. Hi, Kevin Leonard. Liza Ward, it's my party. Hey, Jean Deloach. It's your birthday too? It's my party, really? On when? The 19th or the 20th? How old are you? Happy birthday. Hi, Sharon. Hi, Danielle C.
29.
20 by 29.
Hi, Deborah Vancouver Dan. Tomorrow... Oh, get out of here. Marianne Frantini, get out of here. Tomorrow's your daughter's 66th birthday. Are you kidding me, Marianne? Marianne, how old are you? Marianne. Marianne, are you fooling around? 20th and you're 43? Happy birthday. Marianne, is your daughter on the 20th? You're 83? Oh my goodness. That's crazy. Hey, Julie Bean Shopaholic, I haven't seen you in a while. Marianne. That's crazy. Yours is on the 19th, Angie? Happy birthday. Happy birthday. Well, because I've been around and around, I took a really nice walk today. I took an extra long walk. I went up, not the way I usually go down to the farm. I went all the way around the lake and stuff. And then I went up the other way to this other road, and it was really nice because I was seeing the deer running through the woods. And I don't know if I told you, the last day of school when I was picking the kids up, when we got down to, I walk up to the end of the road so the bus gets off, we walk down, and as we got to our driveway, we saw the deer and the little baby go right across. And today, we had like a lot of windstorms, so there were branches and everything knocked down. And when I was going, where was I going? First around the lake, there were branches all over the place, trees down. And then I kept listening for flying squirrels because I was thinking they got knocked out of the trees and stuff. But I didn't find any, but I saw some robins that I'm like, oh my gosh, did their nest fall or something? But it wasn't that either. So, oh, and my daughter found me a bike. She said, I have to actually go into the bike store, but we think I'm going to get found the bike that I'm going to get. And I'm going to see if the guy if we can do a video in the store, getting the, like kind of showing like how do you shop for, but seeing if he's open to that. So my daughter wanted me to go to one in New Jersey, but I said, can you find me one that's the other way? And she said she did. And then Jimmy looked at it, and I think we had a local one, but they don't have the Trek bikes. But they have another bike. And I think he was checking with them. I don't know. So, but whatever it is, I think that would be a fun video because, you know, buying a bike, right? Like when you're trying to buy a little bit of trying to go up a little bit. Okay, so let me go over here and let's see that, because I have not kept up at all with the headlines. I've been running around. And let's see, we have San Antonio barbecue murders. What? Is that Father's Day? 2 people are dead and 5 others have been injured in a mass shooting targeting a family that was barbecuing outside of their home this weekend in San Antonio, Texas. The incident, which authorities described as a drive-by shooting, occurred at 10:15 p.m. Saturday on the city's southwest side at the 2500 block of Patron Drive. Family members were outside the residence when a dark-colored SUV drove past the home with an undetermined amount of people, and they fired 20 to 30 rounds at the crowd. San Antonio Police Department Chief William McManus said at the press conference that 6 children were at the home when the gunfire broke out, but they were inside the residence and were not harmed physically. That's good. Victims range in age from 20 to the mid-40s, and 5 victims are men and 2 are women. 2 men were ages 45 and 46 were pronounced dead at the scene, and the remaining brought to area hospitals. Crazy. And then there's a manhunt. Let's see if they found this guy. What is with all these inmates breaking out? Okay. Hold on. Let me get this up here. So we can, if you see any of these. A manhunt. Virginia inmates walk away from a federal prison camp. Authorities are searching for 4 inmates who walked away from a minimum security prison camp in Virginia on early Saturday morning. The prisoners are identified as Corey Branch, 41, 5'8", 200 pounds. He's serving a 13-year sentence for fentanyl distribution and firearm possession charges. Tavares Graham, 44, is 6'2", and 165 pounds, and he was sentenced to 18 years for possession of a stolen firearm and possession of a firearm by a convicted felon. Kareem Shaw, 46, 5'8" inches tall, and about 167 pounds, serving 16 years for conspiracy to possess with intent to distribute heroin. And who is our point? Hold on, that was... Oh, and Lamont Willis, 30, 6'2", 165 pounds. He was sentenced to 18 years for possession and concealing a stolen firearm by a convicted felon. So, anyone with information about these men should call the United States Marshal Service at 804-545-8501. The facility where the men escaped houses 185 inmates. Officials didn't say how they escaped. Be aware then, guys. Okay, let's see what else we have. Come on, come on. Come on, babies. Okay. We did that last night. A New York bodybuilder collected disability insurance for 7 years, all while pumping iron. Oh, wow. Let's listen to this. A New York bodybuilder collected disability insurance for 7 years, all while pumping iron and running a business, even though he claimed he couldn't sit for more than 30 minutes or walk for more than 15 minutes. Anthony Ragusa, I've heard about this guy, pled guilty to single count of second-degree larceny and must pay the Social Security Administration $200,000 in restitution. The New York Attorney General's office said the scheme started in 2013 when he took a fall while working as an electrician, and he claimed he was hurt so badly that he couldn't work at all. From January 2015 to 2020, in hearings and written reports to determine his disability eligibility, Ragusa maintained his eligibility despite continuing to run a business and lift weights. In 2017, a ripped and tattooed Ragusa appeared on the Instagram account of his wife, International Federation of Bodybuilding and Fitness pro Loli Ragusa, as he began training for bodybuilding competitions. The photos were later deleted from the account, but not before investigators saw them. His illegal and shameful actions are an insult to those who actually live with disabilities, and I will always take action to bring fraudsters like Ragusa to justice on behalf of the police. Prosecutors say Ragusa was a regular at Long Island Mecca for bodybuilders Bev Francis Gym, and that he was president and owner of White Star Limousine when he collected benefits for his injury. In addition to the restitution, Ragusa must serve a 5-year probation. If he fails to fulfill his sentence, he'll spend 3 years in jail. Georgia man. Okay, here's another. Crazy. 3 people have been charged with murder and aggravated assault after police say they ambushed and killed a Georgia woman they lured into a fight with her ex-boyfriend's current girlfriend. So her ex-boyfriend's current girlfriend, Deja McCrary, arrived at the Camelot condominiums in South Fulton on May 25th with her 4-year-old son in the car. Oh no. South Fulton police said that her ex-boyfriend, Colvin Lindsay, set up a situation for McCrary to fight Tiandra Brox. Another suspect, Aquala Barnes, told police that she texted McCrary with the location of the fight. When she showed up, she was shot and killed. That's nice. Little 4-year-old boy in the car. Didn't say if police knew who pulled the trigger, but Lindsay was also charged with possession of a firearm during commission of a felony. Police say McCrary's son suffered some minor scratches. Jail records show that all 3 defendants face gang-related charges as well. What a bunch. Horrible. Oh my goodness. Hold on, let me pull this over. Look at that. Wow. 2 St. Louis men have been charged with murder after an explosion at a house killed a man and 3 teenagers as they were assembling black market fireworks. Charging documents say that Terrell Cooks, 37, and Seneca Mahan, 43, provided the materials to assemble firework canisters at the home near Blackjack, according to the St. Louis Post-Dispatch. I just heard something. Who did that? Tammy McD says, "You're amazing." Thank you so much, Tammy McD. I appreciate that so much. Thank you. Hi, it's Pink. Who got in here when I was over there? Hi, Linda. Hi, Nana T. Sharon, Mimi. Who scrolled in here when I was over there? I know. Oh, I'm in top chat too. That's not good. I have to get into live chat. Come on, live chat. Aurora. Foxy in the Boxy. Good to see you. How's it going? Okay. If I missed you, sorry. Thank you, Tammy. Okay. So let's go back to these two. They're assembling. Okay. This sounds like a great idea. Now, instead of like getting a business license and maybe trying to buy wholesale fireworks and selling them, they're deciding, let's get the materials and let's assemble some of these fireworks canisters at home. That sounds like a great idea, guys. So Terrell Cooks, 37, and Seneca Mahan provided the materials to assemble the fireworks canisters at the home near Blackjack. The blast went off just before 1:30 a.m. on Friday. It leveled the garage where the work took place, destroyed the brick home where 4 families lived. The brick home where 4 families lived. Let's see. The explosion blew out the windows at some nearby homes. Wonderful. And debris fell into the street more than a block away. Travell Eason, 16. Christopher Jones, 17. Demario Cooks, 18. And William Jones, 21, were all killed in the explosion. It's unknown how many people were injured, but a 12-year-old boy was known to have been hurt. According to court records, Terrell Cooks, that's one of the guys that was 37 and delivered the stuff, was not present when the blast took place. Witnesses, however, told police that he was one of the leaders of the manufacturing process. Federal agents observed Cooks moving boxes of chemicals to his vehicle later on Friday and found a large quantity of completed explosive weapons and components to manufacture them during searches of a home and vehicles connected to him. Cooks told police that he and Mahan manufactured ground salutes, which launched from the ground with a loud bang and a bright flash. He reportedly told the teens how to load the canisters and attach a fuse, and the documents say that he admitted the fireworks contained a charge far in excess of Missouri's legal limits. Cooks and Mahan made the fireworks to sell to a third party, although neither had a license to manufacture or sell fireworks. That wasn't going to stop them. The scene in the aftermath of the explosion was one of pure chaos, neighbors said. The fire was so big, the house was on fire. There's people running everywhere. Kids, said Nicole Thomas, who lived next door. There was one little boy. I don't know if he lived there or not, but he just kind of darted across and said, "Honey, come here." A little boy? When I said, "Honey, come here," I was thinking, like, why is the little boy saying, "Honey, come here"? The boy, who appeared 6 or 7, glanced at Thomas and kept running. The first responders to arrive on the scene found one person dead in the yard, another person with deep cuts, possibly an amputation near where the garage had stood, and at least 3 people who were blown from the blast area were taken to hospitals. One of those, Christopher Jones, later died on Friday, and later on Friday, investigators found another body in the rubble. Cooks and Mahan were initially charged with 3 counts of second-degree murder, 2 counts of endangering the welfare of a child, 2 counts of unlawful possession of an illegal weapon. The charges were filed before the 4th victim died, and prosecutors say the charges will be amended to include the 4th count of murder. Okay, let's see what I just saw. I heard something. And that would be, who just threw up a little super chat there? Where's that? Thank you, Tammy, for the little super sticker. Thank you. Very cute. Little lemon there. Looks like a little lemon head. Okay, let's go. Okay, so Ghislaine Maxwell is having some issues. All right. Ghislaine says that she wants a lighter sentence. She says the jail conditions are horrific. Ghislaine Maxwell argues that she should receive a lighter prison sentence, partly because she's been subjected to allegedly horrific conditions while detained at a federal jail in New York during the prosecution of her case. She's the longtime friend and accomplice of the late ex-offender Jeffrey Epstein, who was convicted in January of trafficking. Lawyers for Maxwell filed new court papers detailing more than 100 complaints that she has made about her experience at the Metropolitan Detention Center in Brooklyn, New York. Ms. Maxwell was subjected to an exceptionally intrusive prison regime, which undermined her dignity, her health, her safety, and her psychological well-being. Let's see if we can find that filing. Oh, we can. Let's see. Do you want to see what she is? I'm going to take just a little look-see. What's going on? Let's see. What's going on? Somebody was singing that last night. What's going on? Okay, here we go. Hang on. All right, let me pull this over. Let's see what's happening with Ghislaine. Okay, we respectfully, on behalf of our client, Ghislaine Maxwell, submit this memorandum. Okay, so let's see what's going on here. Arrest and aftermath. The entire focus of the accusations initially aimed at Epstein were now centered on one defendant alone, Ghislaine Maxwell. At a time, she was already being vilified in the press and by the public domain. The media coverage was relentless and voluminous. Dozens of broadcast documentaries, podcasts, publication of some 50 books, and thousands of superficially written articles. The tsunami of one-sided, overwhelmingly negative coverage about Ms. Maxwell that followed the arrest and death of Epstein presented Ms. Maxwell as a caricature of evil. Let me see who's here. Hi, Mary Beth. How are you? Okay. A depiction that has inevitably shaped the public's opinion of her, and the government added to the demonization of Ms. Maxwell, by calling her a villain on the day of her arrest. But in sentencing Ms. Maxwell, the court cannot be influenced by this inexorable drumbeat of public condemnation calling for her to be locked away for good. The court cannot heal the wounds caused by Epstein by heaping on Ms. Maxwell's shoulders the pain of every one of his victims, the outrage of society, the public scorn of the community, and then driving her out of the community forever. Okay? What do you say, Foxy? Foxy says Maxwell's horrific prison experience is nowhere near as bad as the experience of her and Epstein's victims. Okay, so let's see what the horrificness is, okay? Let's see if we can... She planned to... Okay, let's see. The pre-sentence investigation report. Despite her extraordinarily restrictive conditions of detention, Ms. Maxwell has availed herself of any programming or work opportunity available to her. While in solitary confinement, she has completed 6 courses. But until transferred to general population, she never had the opportunity to make use of that training. Post-trial, she was permitted to work as an orderly, which has continued in general population. Since placed in general population, she has eagerly, hi Puddin, eagerly provided, where was I? A wide variety of assistance to the women in her unit, including she's doing some GED tutoring. Hey Muppets and Manilow, how are you? In addition, she has participated in and completed several education courses. She was born on December 25th in 1961. It was a snowy day. Hi, Kathy. In Mason's Lafitte, France, Maisons. The last child born to the marriage of Robert and Elizabeth Maxwell. She is the youngest of 9. A sister died of childhood leukemia years before Ghislaine was born. 2 days following Ghislaine's birth, her eldest sibling, Michael, was seriously and permanently injured in a car accident. He remained in a coma and then off life support for the next 7 years. The tragedy caused by Michael's accident and coma disrupted the equilibrium of the Maxwell family and transformed young Ghislaine's formative years. Ghislaine was hardly given a glance, and she became anorexic while still a toddler. At age 3, she stood in front of her mother and simply said, "Mummy, I exist." On doctor's orders, exactly a year after Michael's accident, her mother went on a long tour of India and Australia, leaving infant Ghislaine and her siblings, not already in boarding school, at home in the care of a nanny. With Robert Maxwell's publishing company growing and his political career launched, the Maxwell home was filled with prominent guests and ongoing entertainment. As the children grew, they took part in the hosting of guests, having been instructed by their parents to be attentive to the needs of the guest. Well, that sounds like little Christina Crawford. Hey there, Jujubes. Love you. Carol Plant. Hi. So remember when little Christina Crawford would bring the drinks in to Mommy's friend, all my uncles? And wow, Christina, this is strong. That's how I fixed my drinks for all of my uncles. And the guy's like, well, I'm not your uncle. And Joan, what are you doing? She's not a bartender. Okay. So they were instructed by their parents to be attentive to the needs of guests. Despite Mr. Maxwell's professed love for his children, his relationship with them began to change soon after he became a member of Parliament. He stopped living at home regularly, essentially seeing the children only on Sunday, leaving little normal daily contact between father and child to counterbalance the peaks of crisis and drama he created in the family. Even on those Sundays, there was an inevitable contingent of authors and business people in whose presence the children would, so to speak, be put on trial. Oh boy. Maxwellian drama would begin. The ordeal occurred every Sunday at lunchtime. The conversation would start normally until Mr. Maxwell selected one child to answer his questions on a particular topic in accordance with the rules of life he had encapsulated into mnemonics and drilled into them. The 3 C's: concentration, consideration, and consciousness, or WWWH. What, why, when, and how. If the child stumbled, didn't speak on point, or gave a wrong answer, Mr. Maxwell would demand them to answer which of the principles they had forgot to apply and the reason for that failure. The dressing down was always painful in the extreme, with everyone around the table feeling uncomfortable. Mr. Maxwell, a man of large physical stature with a booming voice, would explode, threaten, and rant at the children until they were reduced to a pulp. Mr. Maxwell was relentless, with children ending up in tears, punishments being doled out, and the whole family in utter duress. Hi, Christina Ferreira. Mr. Maxwell employed corporal punishment on his children. Ghislaine vividly recalls a time, at age 13, when she tacked a poster of a pony on the newly painted wall of her bedroom. Rather than mar the paint with tape, she carefully hammered a thin tack to mount the poster. This outraged her father, who took the hammer and banged on Ghislaine's dominant hand, leaving it severely bruised and painful for weeks to come. Out of the home and off to boarding school. Within a week after Ghislaine's 7th birthday, Michael, then 23 years old, died, further disrupting the family. By age 8, Ghislaine was sent off to boarding school at a time when it was uncommon for girls, let alone girls of primary school age, to be boarded. The school was hours away from home, and she returned only during school holidays and at the end of the school year. Mr. Maxwell's political career was ending, and he would face the loss of his publishing company. A contentious takeover battle and legal investigations that would blight the family for the next 7 years and permanently damage his reputation. The 1970s were difficult and demanding years for the family, marred by Mr. Maxwell's endless battle of lawsuits and financial ruin. Despite the family chaos, Ghislaine thrived in boarding school, so then she should feel lucky, right? Away from the whirlwind of that emotional turmoil caused by the relentless demands of her father, which continued until his death in 1991. On her own, Robert Maxwell demanded much of his children and informed them that they needed to keep industrious, as they would not be receiving any inheritance. Hardworking, entrepreneurial, and resourceful, Ghislaine excelled academically and occupationally. Between finishing her A-levels at Marlborough College and attending Oxford University, she spent a year in Spain teaching English, then selling books for her father's publishing company. In France, she began her first romance, only to have the relationship quashed by her father's disapproval of her engagement. A family reconciliation coinciding with Ghislaine's 20th birthday delved into a miserable Christmas. Mr. Maxwell was at his absolute worst, making Ghislaine the scapegoat du jour. The holiday ended with an announcement that her parents were separating. Oh my goodness. While attending Oxford, she started a booster club, which made discount tickets to sporting events available to students and participated in an organization which provided services to the elderly. After receiving both bachelor and master's degree from Oxford University, Ghislaine worked at a temp agency and started her own company, Maxwell's Corporate Gifts. At her father's insistence, the business was merged into his business holdings, and by 1991, Ghislaine had relocated to New York to launch The European, an international magazine, as part of the Maxwell publishing conglomerate. Within that year, Ghislaine's father died under suspicious and unresolved circumstances and under a cloud of business impropriety. With Mr. Maxwell deceased, her brothers, Ian and Kevin, employees of their father, shouldered the accusations. All family assets were frozen. Elizabeth Maxwell was left penniless. The brothers were tried and ultimately acquitted, and Ghislaine was left to fend for herself. In 2003, Ms. Maxwell began a 7-year romantic relationship with Theodore Ted Waite and developed a strong and loving bond with his 4 children, ranging in age from 6 to 12. Her relationship with Waite was on the track for marriage and gave her what she had always hoped for and wanted most, the opportunity for a loving, stable family life and the chance to become stepmother to Waite's children. But her hopes were destroyed, as was so much of her life, by her previous association with Epstein. A Miami lawyer named Scott W. Rothstein, Esquire, attempted to blackmail Waite to keep Ms. Maxwell's name out of civil lawsuits related to Epstein that his law firm was planning to file. Ms. Maxwell's relationship with Waite could not survive the blackmail threats, and it ended soon afterwards. The same thing has now occurred again several years later as a result of this prosecution. In 2013, Ms. Maxwell began a new relationship with the man that she would later marry. She was with her husband for over 7 years and became a devoted stepmother to her husband's 2 youngsters who were ages 3 and 4.5 at the start of their relationship. Sadly, the marriage could not survive the negative impact of this case, nor a husband's association with his dishonored wife. Ms. Maxwell has always worked hard. Her many educational, occupational, and avocational accomplishments include becoming an emergency medical technician, EMT, a helicopter pilot, a submersive pilot, a banker, partnering with the Cleveland Clinic to establish a telemedicine platform to enable people in remote areas to obtain quality medical treatment, helping develop the Clinton Global Initiative, and supporting a variety nonprofit and charitable organizations. In 2012, at the age of 50, she turned a lifelong passion for the oceans into a nonprofit environmental organization, the Terra Mar Project, with the mission of creating a global ocean community based on the idea of shared ownership and responsibility of the global commons, the high seas, and the international waters. She spoke on topics related to ocean conservation, giving TED Talks and delivering a speech at the United Nations. National Geographic and Oxford University were among the organizations that collaborated in support of the project. The Terra Mar Project was closed after Epstein's death to spare her partners from invasion of privacy by the press due to their association with her. Letters from family and friends. Accompanying letters from family and remaining friends, most having cut ties due to fear of association and the lure of cancel culture, attest to Ghislaine's character. Each offers a first-person narrative of some aspect of her life in sharp contrast to the characterization as a villain, rich heiress, and vapid socialite. Her eldest siblings, Anne Have, a psychotherapist, and Philip Maxwell, recount the impact of their father. Her relationship with Epstein began at a moment of extreme vulnerability. Ghislaine's life after the tragic death of our father, our father, was a powerful and dominant figure, and as elder siblings, we witnessed our father taking Ghislaine under his wing, whereby she became over-dependent on his approval and vulnerable to his frequent, rapid mood swings, huge rages, and rejections. This led her to becoming very vulnerable to abusive and powerful men who would be able to take advantage of her innate good nature. It is striking that Ghislaine did not show any perverse behavior before she met Epstein, nor did she show any after leaving him, which she eventually managed to do. The effect of our father's psychologically abusive treatment of her foreshadowed Epstein's own ability to exploit, manipulate, and control her. Another psychotherapist and family friend of some 55 years, James Martin Holloman, recalls his observations of Ghislaine's father. Their father was narcissistic, demanding, and highly controlling. He let them know early that he was going to leave his large fortune to charity, so all the kids knew they had to make it on their own, despite the wealth and privilege in which they were growing up. As I got to know each of these kids, including Ghislaine, I noticed that early on, every single one worked very hard at their jobs, as Bob wouldn't bear any idleness, and each strove for their father and mother's respect through their intelligence and their own hard work. Her twin sisters, Christine, Melina Maxwell, and Isabel Maxwell, attest to Ghislaine's work ethic. We were privileged, but we were not entitled, and life was not always perfect. Unfortunately, our family also became a grieving family. Our eldest brother Michael was gravely injured in a car accident just after Ghislaine was born. He remained in a coma until his death when Ghislaine was 7 years old. In spite of this tragedy, I watched Ghislaine learn to adapt and to become a productive and caring human being. Both of our parents had an incredible work ethic. We were all encouraged from an early age to work to earn money and to respect the responsibility that came with that privilege. Hold on a minute, I had witnessed that work ethic in Ghislaine. Ghislaine had money because she worked very hard to earn it. Her positions demanded hard, diligent work, great intelligence, and great management skills. Great ability to get on well with people from all walks of life, artistic, creativity, and caring about others. Her work was a far cry from the flippity gibbet socialite label that the media had decided to cast on her every time they referenced her. From a very early age, each of us had to learn and demonstrate what our father termed the 3 C's: consideration, concentration, consciousness, and to always treat others as you would like to be treated yourself. We were quizzed on these principles constantly and had to regularly report examples of how we followed them. Ghislaine was no exception in deeply absorbing, exhibiting, and living these values. For example, I think it's no small feat to train and become a helicopter pilot, an EMT, submersible pilot, and more, as they all require dedication, concentration, and quick thinking and reactions, and no small amount of courage. My sister was also very entrepreneurial in creating and investing in multiple companies and organizations which created products and services as well as employment. An important example is that in 2012, Ghislaine turned a lifelong passion for the oceans into a nonprofit, the Terra Mar Project, with the mission to create a global ocean community based on the idea of shared ownership and responsibility of the global commons, the high seas, or international waters. Her brothers, Ian and Kevin Maxwell, confirm the support Ghislaine has provided to. My sister is aunt to 13 nieces and nephews, now aged 18 to 37, and I have witnessed at first hand over the years her generosity to them, be it paying for their school fees, mentoring them, and they grew up, or providing job opportunities for them. Oh boy, that doesn't sound good. She also has an endearing capacity for friendship, a warm heart, and the ability to convert those feelings into action when required to help those less fortunate than herself. She had discreetly supported some friends financially and others by providing a roof over their heads when they were down on their luck, often for weeks at a time. Ghislaine is an intelligent, warm-hearted, generous, kind, funny, thoughtful, and loving person. She cares about others. Ghislaine's first reaction on hearing of a problem is how to solve it or how to contribute to a solution. Her desire is always to engage, to bring energy to every problem, and to help. Catherine Vaughn Edwards, a friend and former employee and the mother of Ghislaine's godson, relates her experience as a mentee. The person that I have known for 35 years is not the same as Ghislaine, so negatively portrayed by the press and mainstream media. My own experience is that she is a kind, caring, and thoughtful, and is always there to provide support as a loyal and generous friend. She has been a mentor, encouraging and helping me to develop my business, and gives her time and advice freely. And finally, Harriet Jagger, a schoolmate from age 15, shares Ghislaine's longing for family life. The last time I saw Ghislaine was in her home in New York a few years ago. I listened to her as she spoke of her wish to find the security and happiness within a family unit. She was visibly upset that this, the simplest of things for so many others, had still not been a part of her own life. I felt truly sorry for her, having known her large and great family, her love and her great respect for her parents, and closeness to her brothers and sisters. I knew this was something she had always craved. I gave her a huge hug on departing. So I was then thrilled to learn that she had finally met and married someone, and was helping bring up his young children. But then, desperate to hear that this much sought after joy was so short-lived. Let's see. Ms. Maxwell is not a danger to the community. She poses no threat to the public, and there is no risk that she will reoffend upon her release from custody. The government has never argued in connection with Ms. Maxwell's bail applications or otherwise that Ms. Maxwell is a danger to the community, nor could they. Apart from the conduct at issue in this case, which occurred almost 20 to 30 years ago, Ms. Maxwell has never once been accused of a crime, much less abuse of minors. In fact, after leaving Epstein, Ms. Maxwell was involved in committed long-term relationships with 2 men, both of whom had young children who continue to support her. Ms. Maxwell is not a dangerous criminal or a habitual offender. She is someone who wants nothing more than to live a normal family life. That's what she wants, guys, just a normal family life. Something she was denied because of her association with Epstein and will now almost certainly never have. The public does not need to be protected from Ms. Maxwell, and such considerations should have no weight in determining her sentence. A guideline sentence for Ms. Maxwell would not serve the sentencing goals of either specific or general deterrence. A significant sentence is not necessary to achieve the goal of individual deterrence here. This is Ms. Maxwell's only brush with the law. Ms. Maxwell has already learned a painful lesson from her arrest and prosecution. Has lost her marriage and her stepchildren, and has been harshly punished during pre-sentencing incarceration. Ms. Maxwell has already shown that she will not reoffend and does not need to be further deterred from committing crimes in the future. Okay, so let's get to the crux of this now. The treatment meted out to Ms. Maxwell during her 22-month period of isolated detention was unparalleled. From the outset, Ms. Maxwell's conditions of detention were extraordinarily restrictive and unjustifiable in view of her personal circumstances, and were manifestly unreasonable and unnecessary in view of meaningful alternatives available in the MDC. There is no explanation for the extraordinary conditions of confinement other than calculated efforts by the DOJ, the BOP, and the MDC, and prosecutors to prevent another Epstein debacle and to ensure that Ms. Maxwell would fill the chair vacated by Epstein's demise. This assertion is supported by the swift and cavalier transfer of Ms. Maxwell's from 22 months of isolation to general population. Ms. Maxwell was subjected to an exceptionally intrusive prison regime, which undermined her dignity, health, safety, and psychological well-being. The following discussion regarding the restrictions adds further texture to allegations concerning her confinement. For 22 months, Ms. Maxwell was segregated from general population. She was locked in an isolated cell measuring 9 by 7 feet. While confined to that cell, she was restricted from moving out of range of the camera focused into the cell. During daytime hours, she was isolated in a larger space. At no time did she have contact with any other inmate. She was watched round the clock by a security detail dedicated exclusively to guard her, as she was consistently monitored by video surveillance. Her security detail rotated every 2 weeks, consisted of high-level BOP staffers recruited from facilities outside New York, who were instructed to guide a high-profile, high-security inmate on suicide watch. Ms. Maxwell was subject to constantly changing rules and whims. Her only source of information was from the guards who controlled her. They became the source of information regarding rules, regulations, and opportunities. If they chose not to dispense information, or if they provided incorrect information, she had no basis to challenge them. She was instructed not to speak to them, lest she face disciplinary sanction. Such is not the case in general population, where inmates assist other inmates and bear witness to and identify inconsistent and improper treatment. Unlike other inmates, Ms. Maxwell was subjected to various prohibitions and deprivations not common to other inmates. She was monitored 24 hours a day by stationary security cameras and by additional handheld cameras that followed her, while under the constant surveillance of several prison guards who scrutinized her every move, even when she was showering, and taking notes of her activities and recording them in various notebooks. The procedures in place deprived Miss Maxwell of any privacy and prevented uninterrupted sleep. The constant illuminations during the night disrupted her sleep, leaving her sleep deprived and causing exhaustion that affected her ability to concentrate. Hey, Painted Black. Initially, she was denied adequate and restful sleep by bright lights left on in her cell for 24 hours a day, coupled with a flashlight shining into her eyes or cell every 15 minutes throughout the night. When the bright lights were turned off in her cell, bright lights remained on directly outside her cell, and the flashlight checks continued, a regime completely inappropriate for a non-suicidal inmate. The unjustified sleep deprivation, which continued throughout trial and afterward, affected her general physical condition as well as her psychological well-being. This practice does not exist in general population. Despite never being in contact with any other inmate, under continuous surveillance by prison guards and cameras, and escorted to and from any isolated location, she was subjected to an excessive number of physical searches on a daily basis: pat-down searches, strip searches, body cavity searches. She was unnecessarily exposed to radiation from body scanners, and was fortunate not to contract COVID when guards, who were not required to take COVID tests, looked and searched inside her mouth. Her cell was searched multiple times daily. The searches were redundant. They were unreasonable and unnecessary, and abusive beyond any legitimate peniological purpose, especially where Ms. Maxwell had no opportunity to acquire contraband. At times, searches were conducted in inappropriate ways and were especially painfully humiliating and intimidating, as when her breasts and genitalia were touched in a rough and reckless manner. Reports by Ms. Maxwell and counsel concerning inappropriate searches by corrections officers went nowhere. It is clearly established that excessive searches are unnecessary and unreasonable when a prisoner is isolated from other inmates. And never out of range of the camera or guard, Ms. Maxwell was searched every time she was removed from or returned to her isolation cell, even when she had no conceivable opportunity, let alone no intention, to obtain contraband. Clearly, The search policy is one that was not applied consistently. Having been in general population for the past 2 months, Ms. Maxwell has only been searched after contact visits with counsel. Because Ms. Maxwell was kept in isolation, she was denied the minimal amenities provided to the general population inmates even during COVID. Except for programs that she completed but could never put to use in isolation, she was not permitted to participate in general programming, educational, leisure, and wellness, to view movies, or to receive job assignments. During the first 3 months of detention, she was only allowed 2 15-minute phone calls per month, further limiting contact with her family, most especially with her husband and stepchildren. This is the same restriction that was applied in MCC's 10 South, the Super Secure Special Segregated Housing Unit, SHU, for inmates charged with terrorism offenses. A further chill was placed on her phone use when recordings of her calls were improperly released by the MDC to a third party. To forestall further disruption of the privacy of her family, she curtailed social use of the phone, further limiting contact with the outside. Ms. Maxwell was denied adequate nutrition. She was provided meager, stale, often rancid, and inedible meals in violation of her non-flesh diet, and in packaging that melted when heated in a microwave. At times, she was not provided food for prolonged periods or was given meals missing components. She was denied access to basic hygiene items, example, soap, toothbrush, toothpaste, and provided only a limited amount of toilet paper. For more than a year, she brushed her teeth with an inch-long finger implement until given a normal toothbrush that was never replaced. Her commissary list was restricted, and she was not permitted to order items available to other inmates. When the tap water in her isolation cell was foul-smelling and undrinkable, requests for bottled water were initially rejected by the prison administration. As a result of being provided an inadequate diet, Ms. Maxwell has lost about 20 pounds and suffered from telogen effluvium, hair loss due to stress and poor nutrition. Complaints made during trial regarding her inadequate daily nutrition were received as a nuisance rather than cause for concern and attention. An extra blanket provided because of the cold temperatures in her cell was removed on the claim it had not been approved by the warden, only to be returned when guards observed Ms. Maxwell shaking while asleep and became concerned that she might be having a seizure. She was given limited time to exercise in an area without sunlight or fresh air, and then constructively denied the ability to exercise because she was not provided proper fitting footwear. The treatment imposed on Ms. Maxwell was unnecessarily and intentionally degrading and threatening. While in isolation, a high-ranking prison guard told Ms. Maxwell that there was concern that she would be shot by a sniper, putting aside the reason and propriety of dispensing this alarming information. Okay, resulting in her transfer. Hold on, let's see what's going on. Ms. Maxwell has been having deprived of sleep, inadequate nutrition, and subjected to such undignified and dehumanizing conditions of detention. Ms. Maxwell was considered weakened psychologically and had great difficulty concentrating, thwarting her ability to participate in and prepare her defense. The impact of the pandemic, coupled with the restrictive conditions of her confinement, made preparation for trial involving multi-million pages of documents especially difficult. Despite being given a laptop, she encountered persistent technical issues reviewing electronic discovery and at times unreadable on both the laptop and the prison PC, and could not search, highlight, annotate, save, or print. Further, delivery of her mail, legal and non-legal, was significantly delayed, as were receipt of core links emails, which were prematurely deleted by the MDC. A report by an independent forensic psychiatrist who evaluated Ms. Maxwell throughout the period of her solitary confinement details the debilitating effect of those extraordinary conditions. Dr. Barty performed an ongoing forensic psychiatric evaluation of Ms. Maxwell, including 14 sessions with her from October 2020 to August 2021. Yeah, it was 331. Yeah. Including a battery of psychological tests to assess whether any psychological matters were present that might be relevant to the disposition of her criminal matters. In summary, Dr. Barty determined Ms. Maxwell's ability to cope with the stress of her legal proceedings and to participate meaningfully in her defense are gradually being eroded over time due to the conditions of her confinement, as reported by Ms. Maxwell, observed by this examiner, and corroborated by Ms. Safian, and in the results of her psychological testing. Recently, she has manifested symptoms of depression and trauma, such as anxiety and minor cognitive deficits. These continue to be exacerbated by the ongoing sleep deprivation and the conditions of her confinement. Given my extensive experience working with incarcerated individuals, based on the manner in which Ms. Maxwell's symptoms have manifest, it is clear that her symptoms are in no way related to the charges that have been brought against her. Instead, they are directly related to the conditions of her confinement. The conditions of her confinement are, in my opinion, directly influencing her increasing depression and trauma response symptoms, which will continue to worsen over time if she remains incarcerated under the current conditions. Oh, hi, Annie B. Thanks for coming in. Have fun with the new baby. Congratulations. In this case, the conditions of detention from Ms. Maxwell were evidently discriminatory, considering her profile, her age, her lack of violence or threat of danger to herself and others. The brutality of her detention regime was completely unwarranted. The fact that she was subjected to an anti-suicide surveillance regime, even though she has no suicidal tendencies, demonstrates that she was being treated differently, without any objective justification. Following the verdict and in the presence of two officers, an MDC psychologist told Ms. Maxwell that she was being placed on suicide watch. The psychologist stated she had opposed placing Ms. Maxwell on suicide watch because Ms. Maxwell did not then and never had presented any suicidal ideations. However, the psychologist's professional opinion would overrule her directives from Washington, D.C., isolated from all inmates and denied social visits due to COVID restrictions. Her only human contact was with the staff that controlled her, except when COVID restrictions for counsel visits were lifted. As such, prison personnel were her primary source of MDC POP-related information, and she often received misinformation, like the date by which she must file an administrative remedy. Although legally presumed innocent, she was humiliated and treated in a way that even established guilt cannot justify. The high-profile nature of the case and the defendant has not diminished because the trial is over, yet almost 4 months after the verdict, she was transferred to general population because, according to MDC Legal, MDC Brooklyn is entitled to assess Maxwell's security needs and change them as the facts dictate. Here, Maxwell has been found guilty and will be sentenced sometime this year. As such, the institution does not have the same security concerns it had when she was a pre-trial inmate. The institution is aware Maxwell will be housed with other inmates and has instituted procedures to ensure she, like the other profile inmates, remains safe. Okay, there's an email from Sophia Papapetru, who's a supervisory staff. The contrast between the atypical conditions of Ms. Maxwell's detention and conventional confinement is so pronounced that it's disingenuous to describe both forms of confinement under the same terminology. Pretrial detention, Ms. Maxwell's detention, equated to supermax confinement and punishment. The term supermax confinement, whether pretrial or post-conviction, commonly refers to long-term placement in an SHU and generally includes the following conditions: cells approximately 8 by 10 feet, confinement to cells for 22.5 to 24 hours per day, constant monitoring of inmates, no congregation between inmates, very limited access to activities or programs, and very limited access to visitors, including occurring through thick glass barriers or via video. Although Ms. Maxwell's isolation was divided between a small isolation cell and a larger isolated area, she was subjected to all other conditions associated with supermax confinement, conditions far more arduous than those experienced by pretrial detainees or even sentenced prisoners in general pop. Beyond duration of confinement, the quantitative measure of imprisonment she was subjected to, disparate treatment, and long-term isolation and unusual restrictions and deprivation amounting to a profound qualitative difference. Convicted offenders are sent to prison as punishment, not for punishment. Despite complaints made by Ms. Maxwell and her counsel, the MDC and the BOP officials retained unchecked authority to incarcerate her as they pleased on conditions that constituted unusual punishment for a non-violent pretrial detainee who posed no threat to herself or others. Ms. Maxwell bore the brunt of unusual conditions imposed by unfettered prison bureaucrats. The Supreme Court defines unusual as something different from which is generally done. Under an original understanding of the cruel and unusual punishment clause, a punishment is cruel and unusual if it is overly harsh in light of long-standing practice. Ms. Maxwell's conditions of confinement were significantly and unjustifiably harsher than conditions in general population. Making it cruel and unusual under the Eighth Amendment. Following Ms. Maxwell's arrest, then Attorney General William Barr was intent on making sure what happened to Epstein while in BOP custody would not be repeated and issued directives to be applied exclusively to Ms. Maxwell. The rough, discriminatory, punitive treatment was implemented and condoned by supervisors and wardens. Hi, Diana. High-ranking MDC personnel, psychologists, and guards commented they had never seen a nonviolent, non-suicidal detainee subjected to such drastic conditions. Hi, Deborah Van Coverden. The treatment was not based on any claim or evidence that Ms. Maxwell was suicidal, dangerous, violent, or in need of discipline. Quite the contrary, folks. The policy and actions implemented to detain Ms. Maxwell violated clearly established rights of inmates to be free from punishment and unreasonable searches. Courts have been confronted with cases challenging conditions of confinement in the MDC, which involve many of the same challenges to conditions of confinement. There can be no dispute that Ms. Maxwell's detention was far more arduous and constituted a more serious penalty than conventional detention in general population. While the hardship of imprisonment is normally measured in quantitative terms, the length of the prison term, the hardship, the deprivations experienced by Ms. Maxwell also had a qualitative aspect. The difference between Ms. Maxwell's isolation and typical prison conditions is so pronounced that they differ not only in degree but in nature. This distinction demands a different calibration whereby each day spent in isolation, especially where isolation is not based on any behavior manifested by the inmate, and while the inmate is presumed innocent, should result in an enhanced time served credit. Incarceration during the pandemic supports a well-recognized sentence reduction. Courts in this district and elsewhere have acknowledged COVID hardship as a basis for downward variances from the guidelines. But even before the current pandemic, courts had recognized that periods of pre-sentence custody spent in unusually hard conditions merited recognition by courts in measuring the just sentence. 13 months of incarceration during a once-in-a-century pandemic as part of defendant's history and characteristics in granting motion for compassionate release. The extraordinarily harsh conditions Ms. Maxwell has faced during COVID warrant a downward variance. The court has repeatedly found that COVID-19 pandemic presents an extraordinarily and unprecedented threat to incarcerated individuals. The existence of COVID-19 has created harsher conditions, and that's a fact that the court should take into account. It is beyond dispute that this pandemic has made incarceration harsher and more punitive than would otherwise have been the case. This is because the federal prisons, as prime candidates for the spread of the virus, have had to impose onerous lockdowns and restrictions that have made the incarceration of prisoners far harsher than normal. The heightened restrictions imposed upon all prisoners during the pandemic may enhance the deterrent effect of prison sentences served during the pandemic by making the conditions of confinement harsher, both physically and psychologically, than they would have otherwise normally been. A day spent in prison under extreme lockdown and in well-founded fear of contracting a once-in-a-century deadly virus exacts a price of on a prisoner beyond that imposed by an ordinary day in prison. While such conditions are not intended as punishment, incarceration in such circumstances is unavoidably experienced as more punishing. Acknowledging the COVID hardship and a basis for downward variance, courts in this district has given credit for each day of pretrial detention served during the pandemic. The pandemic is basically like solitary confinement, harsher than a usual period, more punitive, especially the equivalent of either time and a half or 2 times what would ordinarily be served. Ms. Maxwell deserves no less consideration, and because her extraordinary conditions of pretrial detention were tantamount to pre-sentence punishment, she is entitled to an additional significant downward variance from the applicable guidelines. To determine the nature and extent to which Ms. Maxwell has been penalized, it is important to factor in the impact of the hardship on Ms. Maxwell compared to general population inmates. Based on the underpinnings of punishment and the principle of proportionality, Ms. Maxwell should be given hard time credit for the time she served in restricted and isolated detention. Ms. Maxwell was subjected to punitive conditions and abuse in violation of clearly established laws protecting such individuals from punishment to be free from needlessly harsh conditions of confinement. Confining her to unusually restrictive isolation for the better part of 2 years permits an inference of punitive intent in the absence of any penological reason. The claim that she was segregated due to the high-profile nature of her case is belied by the fact that her case and the inmate are still high-profile, yet Ms. Maxwell is now in general population. If a restriction or condition is not reasonably related to a legitimate goal, it is arbitrary and purposeless. A court may infer that the purpose of the governmental action is punishment and may not constitutionally be inflicted upon detainees. Failing to implement reasonable alternatives suggests that the decision to keep her restricted was made with no legitimate penological purpose and amounts to impermissible punishment. The principle of proportionality, a core principle of the Eighth Amendment and U.S. sentencing guidelines, requires that sentences should be relative to the crimes committed. Okay, so we're going to go on here. Let's go to the conclusion, please. Ghislaine Maxwell is not an heiress, villain, or a vapid socialite. She has worked hard her entire life. She has energy, drive, commitment, a strong work ethic, and a desire to do good in the world. She has supported friends and family through tough times and personal crisis, and currently is assisting women in her unit at MDC. You have personal experience with this, Liza? You have to talk to us sometime about it, okay? Where were we? She has endeavored to contribute to society, becoming an EMT, developed a platform so that people in remote areas could receive quality medical assistance, helping launch the Clinton Global Initiative, creating Terramar, providing GED tutoring for inmates in her unit, and will continue to do so throughout her sentence and when she rejoins the community beyond prison walls. She has also tried to protect the people around her. Ted Wade's children, her stepchildren, the people at Terramar, from the onslaught of press and public vilification that come from having been associated with her. She had a difficult, traumatic childhood with an overbearing, narcissistic, and demanding father. It made her vulnerable to Epstein, whom she met right after her father's death. It is the biggest mistake she made in her life, and one that she will never repeat. She has never been accused of anything untoward in the 15-year period since her relationship with Epstein ended. In fact, she has been involved in 2 committed long-term loving relationships with men who have young children. She is not a danger to the community, and there is no concern about recidivism. In imposing an appropriate sentence, we urge the court to credit a number of factors. Ms. Maxwell is being sentenced for non-violent offenses which occurred decades ago, 1994 to 2004. Ms. Maxwell is over 60 years old. Okay, Liza, you'll have to do that. Let me know when. Ms. Maxwell has no criminal history or prior bad acts. Ms. Maxwell has served the entirety of pre-sentence detention during the COVID pandemic. Ms. Maxwell has served 22 months of pre-sentence detention under extraordinarily abnormal and restrictive conditions of solitary confinement as a nonviolent defendant who posed no danger to herself or others. Ms. Maxwell is being sentenced solely for reasons of punishment. Ms. Maxwell is not being sentenced for rehabilitation. Ms. Maxwell poses no risk of recidivism. In addition, Ms. Maxwell's personal characteristics and history of lawful behavior pre- and post-dating the offense conduct further distinguishes her situation and warrants sentencing conviction. So we saw I guess these are just the exhibits here. Exhibit C. Oh, I don't think we heard this one. Dear Judge Nathan, my name is Isabel Maxwell, and I am one of Ghislaine Maxwell's older twin sisters. I'm 71 years old, and I have known Ghislaine all her life. I'm a graduate of Oxford University, co-founder of one of the Silicon Valley's earliest search engines, and a technology pioneer of the World Economic Forum. I am, of course, aware of the charges of which she has been found guilty at jury trial. I have been present at every one of the pretrial and trial court days, notwithstanding the jury's verdict. I continue to hold Ghislaine in the highest regard, and I believe very strongly that she still has much value to contribute to the world. I wish to share some things about my sister that speak to her character and to her values that I have personally witnessed throughout her life, including from the early 1990s right up to today. Hi, Sassy Darcy. Despite a very tragic start to her life, due to a fatal car crash suffered by our eldest brother, which deprived Ghislaine of the immediate attention of our parents in her earliest years, I observed her grow up and become a lovely, witty, resourceful, scrupulous, and trustworthy human being. Our parents taught us key values such as kindness, consideration, generosity, and an extremely hard work ethic. For example, from a very early age, each of us had to learn and demonstrate what our father termed the 3 C's: consideration, concentration, and consciousness, and to always treat others as you would like to be treated yourself. We were quizzed on these principles constantly and had to regularly report examples of how we followed them. Ghislaine was no exception in deeply absorbing, exhibiting, and living these values. For example, I think it's no small feat to train and become a helicopter pilot, an EMT, submersible pilot, and more, as they all require dedication, concentration, quick thinking, and reactions, and no small amount of courage. These are not the usual pursuits of a Faberti gibbet or socialite, terms with which my sister has been branded with to this day. Ghislaine was always an extremely generous, thoughtful, and kind host in New York to her many siblings, including me, and her many nieces and nephews, which I deeply appreciated. She also helped our mother greatly in her late life and exhibited deep caring and concern, which I noticed personally on many occasions. For example, she dropped everything and flew to France at her own expense to help me with medical issues for our mother was having, and to just be there to comfort her. She also did not hesitate to help her many personal friends with their problems, not only with kindness but practical help too, and did not ask for anything in return. My sister was also very entrepreneurial in creating and investing in multiple companies and organizations which created products and services as well as employment. An important example is that in 2012, Ghislaine turned a lifelong passion for the oceans into a nonprofit, the Terramar Project, with the mission to create a global ocean community based on the idea of shared ownership and responsibility of the global commons, the high seas or international waters. Efforts like these to help our planet are sorely needed, and frankly, our fragile Earth continues to need all the help and activism it can get. It would be within your power to allow her to renew her fight as soon as possible for the ocean conservation in light of the dire warning just issued by the UN that the Earth's oceans have reached the hottest and most acidic levels on record. Ghislaine has managed to live through the most arduous pretrial detention for over 500 days under enhanced security schedule at MDC Brooklyn with courage, humility, and stoicism. During her pretrial detention, she suffered conditions that have constantly and daily contravened the UN Mandela rules of detention to which the U.S. is a party. Examples highlighted by Ghislaine's counsel include severe sleep deprivation, a lack of portable water, prison computers that do not function, and an inability to access the prosecution discovery or keep jail guards from reviewing her confidential materials. I am in awe of the depth of her life force and forbearance. This shows me that she will be able to emerge from incarceration with fortitude and magnanimity. I conclude this letter with a reiteration of the government's and the court's own repeated assertions that Ghislaine is no threat to society, and in restating my strongest belief that Ghislaine would bring all her deep and demonstrated qualities to bear again to help society. I hope greatly that she will be given the opportunity to do so sooner rather than later. Yours respectfully, Isabel Maxwell. This is another sister. My sister was fortunate, as I and my siblings were too, in benefiting from an outstanding formal education, which culminated for Ghislaine with a good degree from Oxford University. She put that achievement to good effect, using, amongst other skills, her gift for foreign languages and networking abilities to start up, invest in, and develop numerous businesses in the UK and in the US, employing people, making a difference, and making a contribution. Perhaps her single most important contribution is to have converted a lifelong passion for conservation and the oceans into a nonprofit, the Terramar Project, to create a robust awareness program and a thriving social network around the oceans at a time when they were perhaps not so high up the conservation agenda as they are today. Terramar ran from 2012 to 2019, and at its peak had hundreds of thousands of visitors to its website and many thousands of subscribers to its programs. None of this would have happened but for Ghislaine's determination, her hard work, and her capacity for organizing and mobilizing and... Hold on a minute. I missed something. Sheer perseverance as well as financial generosity in sustaining Terramar over the years. Those personal efforts of hers, along with others from key corporate supporters and sponsors, were acknowledged when the UN made oceans conservation one of the 17 Sustainable Developmental Goals for 2015 to 2030. Hello, Lisa H. Hello, Keep It Kind. Hi, Blue Jean. I believe Ghislaine still has much to contribute to the world if she is given a meaningful opportunity to do so. And that was Ian Maxwell. There's another one writing on his sister. Ghislaine is an intelligent, warm-hearted, generous, kind, funny, thoughtful, and loving person. She cares about others. Her first reaction on hearing a problem is to solve it. I first met Ghislaine running down a corridor at school. She was 15 and carrying 2 pairs of corduroys, one green, one black. She had great energy, a huge smile, and I liked her immediately. She was very popular at school, bright, funny, engaging, and fun. Being close friends, we have of course had the social times, the help with advice on personal issues, the connection of like-minded people. I totally trust Ghislaine to always be there for me, the same as I am for her. When I was going through a sad separation from my husband and living in a lowly rental, Ghislaine would often ring me with a call me if you need some cheering up, knocking on the door to see if I was okay. Do you want me to nip to the supermarket for anything? I have always liked her straightforward, intelligent advice, her strong personality, but with a genuine sensitivity, understanding of others' people's problems. Her warmth, devotion, and huge loyalty to her family and friends are qualities I admire enormously in her. We had trips together, most notably to Madrid, when we were both working on different publications. I was showing her the ropes of the industry. She was happy to listen to other people, take on board experiences and knowledge from those in the business. She was open and friendly, often lacking in confidence. Herself, she would work hard to understand and appreciate those who knew more. Despite being on different sides of the Atlantic, we had always remained friends. Ghislaine was always quick to answer a message, to meet up whenever possible, keen to keep a grounded attachment to those she valued and were constant in her life, wanting news, catch-ups, and the gossip of old friends. The last time I saw Ghislaine was in her home in New York a few years ago. I listened to her as she spoke of her wish to find the security and happiness within a family unit. We read that part of it. I am the cousin of Ms. Ghislaine Maxwell. We have known each other for over 50 years. My mother, Jolana Roth, and her late father grew up together. Our families have been close for 90 years. I attended the trial as a family member, and I'm aware of the charges that she has been found guilty of. Ghislaine is a friend and a confidant. Forthright, kind, respectful. Qualities that all parents hope for in their children. I saw those in Miss Maxwell many times, and especially towards her late mother, Elizabeth. When Betty would come to the States, I would come by, and here's what I observed. A kind, caring daughter who was respectful to her mother and to all around her. Qualities learned and inherited and apparent to all. That's who Ghislaine is. And that's the end. So she is not a happy camper. And it looks like you're trying to get her extra time for all that time she did there, under those absolutely deplorable situations. Okay. So, but that I am exhausted. It's 4:06, and I don't usually stay up this late. And the last 2 nights, you guys have been keeping me up late, and that's not good. But no, it wasn't your fault this time. It was just too much Father's Day. So, I hope that you guys all had a fun day Sunday. And tomorrow's a holiday. Jolly holiday with Mary. Hi, Diane. It's good to see you here. Who else did I miss? Mimi, I think I said hello to you, right? Liza, you do have to tell me about your situation. Email me at carolyn@truecrimechat.org and we can talk. It's a jolly holiday with Mary. Rough and Ready, the napkins you wanted. I'll get them together for you tomorrow, and I will show them to you. I'll do a live or something and show them to you, right? All right. And what else was I going to say? Tomorrow is Monday, but it's, Monday. I don't know, we'll see what else. But I will see you guys tomorrow. Be good. You're welcome, Danielle. Good night. I will, Diana. It's good to see you again. Thank you, Kevin, Sharon, everybody. I'll see you tomorrow. Love you guys. God bless. Be good. Alley Cattails. I hope you can still hear me, Alley Cattails. I loved your stuff the other night. Thank you so much. You should come on and sell some of that stuff in one of our sales. Hey, Juju Positive. Can you hear me? Can you guys still hear me? I think you can, right? Yes, you can. All right. Anyway, guys, I will see you later. Love you. See you later. Let me see. I've got to go here.